Joining me today is Jack Rokowski. Jack, thank you for sitting in for Michael Mandel, who is still vacationing in Scotland. So I hope he's having some nice Scotch whiskey and a bowl of haggis. Did you ever eat haggis?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's suet cooked in a sheep's bladder. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound very appetizing.
Like menudo.
It's worse than that, believe me. But anyway, thanks for sitting in for Michael today. I'm pleased to have you on board for today's show. And there's a few things going on in the news this week, one of which was is the Equal Pay for Women Amendment, which, it's unfortunately hasn't been passed. Congress has voted on it more than once, and people like Steve Pierce, our congressman from District 2, keeps voting it down, and he and his ilk have seen to it that it won't pass. Are you surprised at that?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I know Mr. Pierce. I mean, I've been watching his crimes that he's committing again and again and again, and he sure still belongs in prison, but he's not there at this point. He's surrounded by other crooks out there. What do they call it? This Congress?
Yeah, Congress. That's what they're called. Yes, and equal pay legislation has been blocked time and time again. I'm not sure what they have against women and why they don't want them to be paid the same as a man for the same job. Because, let's face it, women's clothing costs more than men's clothing. Right there is enough reason just to pay them an equal amount. Women wind up paying more for everything, really.
Right, no, and that's a very difficult subject, the equal pay subject. I totally agree that there should be equal pay when there's the same work involved.
Yes.
Now, not always the same work is involved, because not all the job was meant for men and women.
That's true. I mean, fighting in battle or,
For good example,
construction work.
I don't see women in the military, although, of course, somebody out there will get mad at me because blah, 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 women should be in military.
Well, women are in the military, it's just not in combat right now.
Okay, not in combat.
Women serve a great many functions very well in the military. In fact, we have women colonels and women generals. Women general runs White Sands Missile Range right now. She's doing a fine job. She's an administrator, basically.
There you go. So women should be general, but they shouldn't be torturing the inmates, right?
Well, she's worked her way up, and she's doing a fine job. In fact, she's doing such a good job, she's being promoted out of there. But when it comes to the combat scenario, yes, women they're just beginning to open it up next year to combat for women. Women have been excluded from combat in the past.
I don't know. My 3 ex-wives, I think they would do pretty good in combat.
Were they combative?
Oh, very combative, yes.
Is that their fault or yours?
No, it had nothing to do with me, of course.
Oh, no, of course not.
How could it be my fault?
But anyway, I'm all for equal pay for women. That way they can afford to take me out once in a while.
Yeah, that's the good idea. And now I really know. Let me take it back. This is not a good idea. I think we should not eliminate the fact that men are men, women are women.
What's that got to do with pay?
No, it has nothing to do with the pay, as long as we're doing the same job. And I'm not disagreeing with this idea. I believe that women should be paid equally with men. I don't believe they should be paid less just because they are women.
Right.
I never say that, and I don't agree with it. Now, I don't agree with this idea that women should be paying for dinner. No, men should pay for dinner.
All the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a sexist, Jack.
Yeah,
I never realized that about you.
Okay.
What's the matter? What's the matter with a woman paying once in a while?
Well, once in a while.
Especially if they're making more money than you. And frequently they do these days, believe it or not. For instance, if a guy's unemployed and a woman's got a job.
Oh, so that's why you want to fight for equal pay, because they make more money than you do.
Look, I'm not intimidated by a woman who makes more money than I do. In fact, I'm not intimidated by a woman who's smarter than I am.
Oh, well, that's good news.
Because that's not hard to find.
Because that would happen every day. Right?
Yes, I can't live my life being intimidated all the time.
That's right.
But, talking about equal pay, here's another problem that we have right now. In the fast food business, you have companies like McDonald's actually stealing from their minimum wage workers.
Right.
They're making billions of dollars, and they still think it's necessary to steal from their workers. For instance, not paying them overtime, not allowing them to go on a break, which they're mandated to do by state law, but forcing them to work through their breaks if it's really busy. and 80% of over 80%, 89% of fast food workers said it happens to them not getting paid overtime.
Well, that's right, because now, see, the minimum wage was higher, then those poor guys who make only like $5 million a week, they would have to make it on $3 million a week, and you understand that there's a serious problem with that, right? So let the clown out there make his $7 or $8 an hour, so we rich will feel rich. That's what I have heard many a times in the United States, and it kind of makes me laugh. People can see the economy develops when people make more money.
It does. They have more money to spend. And plus, they're paying more tax, income tax on the money they've earned.
Minimum wage was higher, then the rich people would make more money. But this idea that, oh, if you sit on it, because there's one fundamental truth of money. Money that is not spent is worthless.
It's true.
Money becomes a value when you spend it. And when you sit on it and have it, it might feel good. I don't know. I'm not sitting on much. But it really is pointless.
Exactly. And like women who aren't being paid enough money, going back to the equal pay legislation, it's called the Paycheck Fairness Act. And what it would do would strengthen penalties that courts could impose for pay discrimination against women or anybody else. And it also forbids retaliation against workers who inquire or disclose that their employer's wage practices is being revealed. Your employer can't retaliate against you if you reveal these things. So the Equal Pay Fairness Act, or the Paycheck Fairness Act, I think if it comes up again, stands a good chance of passing. Hopefully they'll do it after the next election, which will be in November, which will bring in a new Congress, new Senate.
New Congress, new Senate. I thought it was always the same guys sitting there.
Well,
seems like until they die.
It has been for quite a while. But if people like Steve Pierce can get voted out, and his opponent right now is a woman named Rocky Lara from Carlsbad, she can maybe get the ball rolling on some of these things.
Woman in Congress.
Woman in Congress. Oh. She will get the same pay in Congress, even though the Republican congressmen are against women getting equal pay. She will get paid the same as the male congressman, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, it seems like Congress is never suffering. It's like if there is everybody else is suffering, they always get more money, more this, more that, and a better health insurance.
They can vote themselves a raise.
Yeah, they vote themselves a raise. So then they say, well, you folks, you don't need health insurance.
Right.
But those are guys who do have a health insurance, they're saying that.
They've got the best insurance package you can get, pretty much.
And they don't have to pay for it either.
No, we pay for it out of our... Yeah, people who can't afford a health insurance plan for their own are paying for the Congress's health insurance plan out of their taxes. So what wonderful thing. You got to love this country.
Well, you just need to become a congressman.
Yeah.
But then again, there's a problem with mirrors. You got to look at yourself in the mirror every morning.
Exactly. Now, we're talking about taxes, and we just had a referendum this week where the citizens of Doñana County got to vote on whether a tax hike would be in place to raise money for the Doñana County Water District, which would raise basically $350,000 per year for the water district. Now, these are people who are appointed, many of them by the governor, and it's a partisan group. And it turns out they were against the Organ Mountains National Monument Initiative. They want to hire 3 people to work in their office for them, and they claim that they want to fix all the flood control dams up and down the valley. Well, $350,000 is not going to do that. Anyway, the voters went to the polls, and even though they had voter suppression on this election, because there were only 5 polling places in the entire county where you could vote.
Right. Don't vote if you don't want to vote the way we
want
you to vote.
The hours were cut back, and there was no early voting. So the lines in these things were an hour and a half long, and people still stood in line and thwarted the voter suppression that was there.
Not to pay a tax, who would then be voting?
I tried to vote. I went to 2 polling places, and the lines were so long, I figured, well, there's enough people here that are going to vote the way I would vote anyway. And my time was too valuable to sit in the line for an hour and a half, so I didn't vote.
That's right.
Did you?
No, I did not go. I have no interest in it. They make me already pay for some spaceship landing zones and other irrelevant nonsense. I think state is doing a really good job on throwing my money away. I did not go to vote on that one.
So we can. I'm happy anyway that the tax hike was suppressed.
Was shot.
Yes.
Shot in the head.
We were able to
and buried.
suppress it. Now, so I do want to say, now that we're on television, and all of us on television know everybody else on television, as it turns out, congratulations to Stephen Colbert. As you may have heard, he just got the nod as the person who will replace David Letterman.
Well, replace David Letterman.
On The Late Show with David Letterman next year.
Can David Letterman ever be replaced?
Well, he'll be a tough act to follow. But, you know, David Letterman was hoping to be the one to replace Johnny Carson. That didn't come to pass, so he got his own show, and the rest is history. So Stephen Colbert is going to take on where the great man left off sometime next year when David's contract runs out.
No more David Letterman.
So there will be no more David Colbert, the Colbert Report, which is his show right now on the Comedy Channel. Of course, he started out with Jon Stewart on the Jon Stewart Show, got his own show. And so
It's leaking those names.
Colbert will move along.
Guys.
And I think it's a good choice. Now, speaking of show business, we lost one of the greats this week, Mickey Rooney.
One of the greatest around.
One of the greats. I mean, he goes back to the silent era. He started out in silent films as a young child, 3 years of age, 6 years of age in silence, and worked his way up. Yeah, he had a career that lasted over 80 years. Mickey Rooney died at 93 this week, and 250 films, at least. He was shooting a film when he died. I don't know if they can salvage the film or not, or shoot around him. Hopefully they had enough footage that they can still preserve the picture. But I grew up with Mickey Rooney. And the films I grew up with were old films already, of course. But he was still working. I remember in the 80s, he was doing Broadway. He was a Broadway star in the 80s doing a musical called Sugar Babies with a huge cast. What's her name? Ann Miller was the co-star with him. And his motto was, "Don't retire, inspire," which sounds like a pretty good motto to have if you're an aging person.
You don't want to retire, yeah.
You don't want to retire, yeah. Don't retire, inspire. So Mickey Rooney, rest in peace. We'll miss you. You know, he was nominated for 4 Oscars.
No, I did not know that.
He won 2 special Oscars for his achievements in motion pictures. He won an Emmy Award and a Tony nomination. So the guy was awesome. And you got to hand it to the old Mixter. Now, speaking of movies, tonight, Saturday night, downtown in Las Cruces, there's an event going on down there at the Placita, as they call it. That's the covered area there just next door to the Rio Grande Theater. There's going to be food trucks down there. There will be a beer garden operating. And at 9 o'clock, when it's dark enough, they're going to show a movie outside on the wall there. They're showing The Goonies from 1983 or 4, whenever it came out. It's pretty much a kids' film, which is a good film for kids. Take the kids down there. It's free of charge. So downtown Las Cruces, Main Street, right around the Rio Grande Theater tonight. It's a beautiful thing. Also this weekend, same night, tonight and tomorrow afternoon are the final performances of The Lion in Winter, which is the play that the Las Cruces Community Theater is putting on down there at the Community Theater, just 1 block north of the Rio Grande Theater. This is one of the film versions of it with Patrick Stewart, and I think that's...
Yeah, those guys never been to Las Cruces.
No, they've never been to Las Cruces. It's a brilliant script, and the play got a decent review from Gerald Kane in the Bulletin, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll probably be down there Saturday night to see it myself. And if you see me there, come up and say hello. And so we're going to take a break here, Jack. I hate to interrupt you.
You're not interrupting.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back after these words.
Welcome to La Buena Vida Women's Club, located away from the crowds but close to home. Come in throughout the day for Jazzercise, the world's dance fitness leader for nearly 40 years. Treat yourself to a relaxing massage, or unwind in the lounge area or outside on the balcony with friends. La Buena Vida Women's Club, located and designed with women in mind. For information, call Ann at 650-9721.
Hey, you, come here. Do you want to know the news? The Lost Cruises channel is now on 7 days a week, so keep it right here.
Celebrate, celebrate, Fiesta Motors.
Come and see us today and discover why our service is second to none. In business for over 17 years, we have the right car for you. When you buy a vehicle from Fiesta Motors, we do everything possible to ensure your satisfaction. Located at the corner of El Paseo and Main. See you there.
Celebrate, Fiesta Motors, where buying a car is always a celebration.
And we're back watching Double Talk. Mark Steffen, joined by Jack Rokowski, today's guest host. Thanks again, Jack, for joining me here in lieu of Michael Mandel. And also, I want to thank Richard Ochoa over at Max Designs for VIPs. You know, every week I go in there when I do a show. The day of the show, I go in there, they do my hair, they cut my hair when I need it, they style it for me. And Richard, who's a fabulous barber, he's a real artiste, today he cut my beard. I had a beard that I grew for a play I did last summer when I did Terra Nova. And based on Terra Nova, I was asked to audition for this film we both worked on called Jim. And they wanted me to keep the beard for that. And just recently I had to go back for some retakes on that movie. And so I finally got the word, we're finished with the movie, I can cut my beard. And I was happy to do that. And thank you, Richard Ochoa, for doing a fabulous job of cutting the beard off that I've had for now almost a year. At Max Designs for VIPs over there on Lohman Street. If you need hair, makeup, nails, massage, they do it all over there at Max Designs, 525 North Lohman.
And movie is
East
done.
Lohman.
Movie
East
is
Lohman.
done.
The movie is done, and I hear it's looking good. Our friend and producer David Edwards, co-producer of the film, said he's seen about an hour plus footage and says it's coming together well.
Even the part that I am in.
Yes, Jack and I.
That's right.
Every scene you're in, I'm in. I believe.
That's right, because I'm a sidekick.
You're my sidekick. That's correct.
That's right.
And we don't want to give too much more away than that.
No.
We haven't seen it, so we can't really. We were just there when the camera was rolling.
And very possibly we are not in a movie anymore. Who knows?
You know how they cut people out of movies
right,
these days.
that's
so
right. All the
we may or
time
may
they
not
do
be in
that
there
stuff.
anymore. But you're here because you love New Mexico.
Absolutely.
And you love Las Cruces.
I love Las Cruces especially, yes.
And unless I'm mistaken about that.
No. To tell the truth, I like Las Cruces better than any place else in New Mexico.
Oh yes.
So, but I pretty much hate New Mexico.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't like using words like hate because it's really not the kind of feeling that I have towards New Mexico. I more is like kind of like watching a retarded child. You want to laugh, but you shouldn't because it's in a bad taste.
Yes.
But when I listen to people from New Mexico, especially those that try to convince me how much they love New Mexico, every time I hear that, I say, did you ever listen to yourself? Seriously? Seriously, love New Mexico? Like, what do you really love? Which part do you like more? Like, the child molestation is your favorite subject, or poverty, or welfare? Which subject is really the most exciting about New Mexico? Criminals in government? Or the most idiotic ideas that New Mexico has, like building some psychotic nonsense like some spaceship landing zones and all those beautiful ways to throw money away while half a population is illiterate, homeless, and lives on less than $5,000 a year.
Well, now, you mentioned child molestation. What does that have to do with New Mexico?
Well, what that has to do in New Mexico, that according to statistics, New Mexico has extremely high number of child molesters. In fact, it happened to be fathers screwing their daughters.
Yes.
Before they even reach 12 years old.
Well, that happens everywhere, doesn't it?
Well, that's a great answer. It happens everywhere. Not every state is number one on the list, and New Mexico is not only number one. It's number one and then nothing for the long time, and then the rest of the states. So there must be a reason why folks in New Mexico think that having sex with their daughter is just a great way to spend time.
Well, okay, a lot of it is not just that, but it's abuse. We do have a lot of child abuse, not just sexual abuse, but physical abuse and mental abuse. That happens here a lot. It gets covered a lot in the news.
You mean living here is
Living here, you hear about
become
it.
a victim of abuse.
Well, unfortunately, it's you hear about it regarding children too much, and
So what is it? So what is it about New Mexico that makes folks around here hate their children? Or are they
That's a good
really
question.
such animals that the only thing they know how is to have a dog fights with police, stealing and child molestation? Is that what we're gonna do?
well, why does a border, say between Arizona and New Mexico, make all the difference between New Mexico having all this and Arizona or Texas not having it?
That's right. Why
How
it?
does a border make all that difference?
How does it make it? I don't know.
I don't either.
I know that it certainly does. I know the economy here is horrifying. It's practically a joke.
It's true.
It's a place that folks from Mexico come here because they can buy stuff cheap. Because Mexico appears to be wealthier than New Mexico. So what is the cost to all this? Well, there could be a few theories. Of course, it's not a simple answer and a simple question. Of course, the problem is a lot more complicated. Is it maybe because the government in New Mexico is mostly Hispanic?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Because I think the sleaze is equal here. I don't think it's a racial issue at all. I think you find just as many white thieves and molesters as you find Hispanic, and
Sure.
maybe a couple of black guys on the show too, although they almost don't exist here. So what is it? Is it lack of education? Because education in New Mexico is substantially worse than anywhere else. I mean, schools in Las Cruces are worse than schools in El Paso, and that's pretty hard to do. For those who have been around here, you know that that's pretty hard to do. But they are. Now, of course, teachers are screaming, well, what are we doing our job? We're doing this. Oh, it's parents' fault. Well, so wait a minute now. What do you mean it's a parent's fault? How is it a parent's fault that school doesn't teach? So maybe I should just quit sending my kid to school and just keep him home. Maybe it will be better that way. Or what exactly does that mean?
Lots of people do take part in homeschooling, and which, in many cases, if the parents are qualified to do that, the kids often do get a better education. They don't get the socialization and the
That's right.
enculturation
Number
with all
one.
the kids that they should have.
Number two, and when you're gonna do this? So you have to be like unemployed to have
Exactly.
time to. So now maybe I should also make my shoes and tailor my shirts and cook my food and raise my children, because all this stuff I can do better than somebody else. And that is New Mexico, better than somebody else. You ever met a mechanic that can fix your car better than you can in this state?
Yes, in my case, yes.
Uh-huh.
Now,
I know one, he's from California, he's pretty good.
now, you give me the impression that you might have been in a lot of other places besides New Mexico. Are you well traveled?
I'm very well traveled. I've lived in not even sure, 14 states, and I've been to all 48.
And
Because I travel on wheels, that's why I never made it to Alaska or Hawaii.
now, what about other countries? Have you lived in
I've
other
lived in
countries?
several other countries. I think it's not a secret that I wasn't born here. I certainly wasn't born in New Mexico.
Oh, what, from Texas?
No, I'm from Poland.
Okay.
The country in Europe that people from New Mexico probably don't know much about it because they went to New Mexico schools. Schools in New Mexico, schools in Poland are horrifying. You know that on the end of high school in Poland, I was expected to name every single country in the world with the capital of the country, name of a president, and every single state in the United States with the name of a capital and a governor.
Well, I guarantee you, kids in New Mexico schools cannot do that. In fact, most American schools, they couldn't do that.
Probably couldn't do it. But then again, so what?
In fact, they couldn't do it in college. Here, I'm quite sure.
No.
Unless you're a geography major.
No, I had opportunity to compare an MSU to the high schools in Poland, and an MSU is comparable to decent high school in Poland.
Uh-huh.
And that's about what it is. But I don't think that's a New Mexico subject. I think that's another subject.
Okay. Well, now, here in New Mexico, we just get, for people who own property, we just got our tax assessment notices in the mail. And
You mean people who live with their mother?
no, if you
People who own the property.
if you own property, you have a house, or you own a vacant lot even, or an apartment building, yeah, you get your property tax assessment. They're coming in now, and apparently, if you are the head of the considered head of the household, you get a $2,000 discount off the price of your tax assessment. But apparently, you have to go down in person to make that possible, as I'm told.
I don't understand. If you're the person who owns the property, then you get $2,000 discount of.
If you're the head of the whole household,
Oh, you're head of a household.
then you go down there and you say, I'm the head of the household of this property. Please give me my discount. And they discount your property value of $2,000. That means you pay less tax.
No, they discount your tax $2,000. They don't discount property value $2,000.
No, I think that's what they do.
That wouldn't make any difference.
Well, the less the property is valued at, the less tax you're going to pay on it.
Well, that's true, but what's $2,000 discount on property value?
Gosh, I wouldn't know.
Well, very little.
Very little. Very little.
No, I suspect it's $2,000 of a tax.
Well, I've had people tell me that they thought that the tax rates here are too low, which may be one reason why the state's so poor. But poor people can't pay that much more tax, can they?
That's right. No, they can't.
But corporations can. But as it is now, right now, this is a big gas and oil state, and the gas and oil really doesn't pay any tax. In fact, they get subsidies from the government to the tune of billions of dollars.
Because they are poor. Yeah, that's right. The poor guys, they don't make enough. I mean, everybody knows oil is a bad business.
And gas and oil pretty much owns many of the politicians in this state, like Steve Pierce, like our governor,
Right.
and many other
Governess.
governess,
Yeah, governess.
and who's running for office again. Her 4-year term is almost up.
Yeah, it is.
She's going to have a great deal of competition. There's 5 Democratic opponents running against her. I've met every one of them, and they're all good. They're all good candidates too. I like all of them.
Well, they were all in the same jailhouse?
No, I met them on the campaign trail this spring.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to say to them. Believe it or not, I met all the candidates who were running against Susana Martinez when she was running for governor for the first time. That's right. But I don't know. Today I don't want to talk about Susana Martinez because I left all my bad language home.
Well, don't worry about that. We're not here to talk about Susana Martinez. Is there anything else about Las Cruces or New Mexico that you actually like, besides the weather?
Well, no, I don't like weather in New Mexico. I think it's horrible. Like today, already AC. April, we already have AC running. What's going to be in July? Now, the good news is that you don't need a passport to escape from New Mexico to United States.
If you're driving. If you're flying, you do.
Yeah, if you fly, well, you need to show them some papers because they're going to check you here on the way out of Las Cruces to the United States.
Yes.
But it's not as bad as from someplace else. It's a lot easier to escape from here to the United States than anywhere else because it really is in Mexico. It's not United States, but it's not Mexico. It's called North Mexico, North Mexico. And so it's got elements of this and elements of that.
Well, you don't like Las Cruces that much. How about Mesilla? Do you like that?
Oh, Mesilla is a phenomenal place. It's just if you really have some laughs, but you can't go there because they're gonna arrest you while you're laughing. I think it's illegal to laugh in Mesilla.
No.
But the place is just great.
Well, and I hate to have to cut you off.
I know you do.
But I'm getting the wrap-up sign, and thanks again, Jack, for joining us here on this week's Double Talk. Be sure to join us next week. Michael Mandel should be back in that seat if he makes it back from Scotland in time. And until then, Mark Steffen for Double Talk. Thanks for joining us.